Shadow Show.
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 Shadowing it.
I was a bit confused when I got in here, Amin, because you were sitting in Stugotz's seat, and I also saw Stugotz on what is an important Jewish holiday, and I couldn't figure out exactly what was happening. And then I looked into the back room, and for some reason, Tony was looking extra sexy today, and there, sniffing him nearby, was Stugotz, who insists on being back there all of a sudden because he wants to be close to Tony. And Tony has gotten very comfortable with all of this, even though it feels a bit harassy to me.
He's never been uncomfortable, Dan. I've noticed Tony has a certain set of cool under these types of situations, these pressure situations. He never breaks.
Me and Stugotz go way back, though. Remember, he went to my bachelor party.
Yep.
Perfect day at Coco Cay. He was there on the cruise with us.
What a time we had.
Stugotz is my buddy.
Were you upset, Stugotz, that he was marrying someone other than you? Like, what was happening at the bachelor party? How were you able to put down all of your feelings? That's real love, that you could put down all of your feelings there and be happy for Tony for marrying, away from you.
I wasn't happy. I spent the entire time trying to convince Tony to leave his soon wife-to-be and stay with me, and it didn't work, obviously.
Well,
so.
we decided half and half, right? We decided I would marry her, but that I would work here, and that we could both, I'd split the baby.
I have this conversation happening on the fore deck of the, I don't know nautical terms, but the front of the ship, right? Like right by the crest of it, and they're cresting through the water, and they're all by themselves. It's dark.
It was actually the back of the boat.
Really?
Because the back of the boat's where they have the wave pool and like the little wave runner, and they have some
Yes.
slides and stuff. So we were back there, and as we were leaving Miami, you see the port, you see everything in the background, the sun setting, and then we had the conversation of like, look, this is going to happen. But just know I love you. Just know that we still can be together, just at work, not at home.
It's the perfect alibi.
Tony, I'm going to need $1 from you for clearing your throat into the microphone. I don't know who gets that.
I don't have cash, sorry.
I got you, Tony.
Jessica.
Jessica's not getting money anymore. I'm getting the money.
Stugotz offering to pay
Tony.
for Tony.
Stop that. Stop that. Stop that. Yeah. I hear him chat to the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the walking. Just too sharp with the prize. White girls let it tell me I'm awesome. Yeah. Hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch my please use caution. Cold like 0 degrees. I'm out the cage, gotta let out the beast. Revolutionary, gotta let out the streets. Locked in a cage, I'ma let out the sheets. You came for one month, forget my peace. You take the west side, take on the east. I'ma put them in the cage, never let out the.
I don't have $1.
Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the boys, not so tough, but mans keep walking, yeah. Just too sharp with the prize. White girls, let it tell me I'm awesome, yeah. Hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch my please use caution. Stop that. Stop that. Stop that.
Amin came in here today talking baseball and access in baseball. I was surprised to hear you say that you cared about something that happened in a baseball game.
Well, I find it interesting. I don't think I care, but I did find it interesting.
Well, if you put it on the poll, Juju, at Le Batard Show. If you find something interesting, does it mean that you care about that subject? I don't know why that's the correction you would make on me.
I don't know. Maybe it's a little bit of sociopath in me. Like I find a lot of things interesting that I don't care about. Like,
Okay, but it seemed like if you brought it up conversationally to me, it was at least in part because you cared about it. I thought that that's what just happened. I felt like that. But okay, you find it interesting.
maybe I'm an excellent conversationalist, Dano.
I found that not to be.
No? Okay. Well, the Mets and Brewers game last night, right? It's a close game. It's a playoff game. And in the middle of the ninth inning, right? Mets are at bat, and they go to a in-game interview. And while the in-game interview is happening, a crucial play is missed because we're getting a full screen of this interview. And fans went nuts, as they should have, because nothing is more important than the game itself, right? That should be the cardinal rule for all sports. Nothing can be more important than the actual thing, the reason why we're all here. And
certainly in the televising of sports,
yes,
nothing can be more important than seeing what's happening that has consequences in the ninth inning.
And it made me think this is the rare time when extra access, added access. Usually when we hear protests from people, it's the players. I don't want to deal with this. It's a distraction. It's management. It's the coaches. It's the people who are doing the game. They're like, why do I have to do this extra stuff? And then you get stories like David Stern at the NBA Coaches Association meeting letting them know, hey, we're going to be having these cameras in the locker room. And Scott Skiles says, what about the sanctity of the locker room? And David Stern says, oh, well, that's a good point. On the one hand, you have the sanctity of the locker room. On the other hand, you have $200 billion or whatever it was. And he basically eviscerates Scott Skiles in front of everybody and then says, any other questions? And everyone's silent, right?
I miss David Stern.
Oh, man. R.I.P. But in this case, the people who are pushing back on the extra access are the fans who you would think are, under all circumstances, give me more, give me more, give me more. The fans, rightfully so, I think, are saying, nah, man, I didn't need that. And then it gets into kind of like, oh, what do you need, right? What do you need? Add anything?
What do you need in the modern age as the streaming services change, how all of this is covered, and people need more and more stimuli because baseball can be slow and baseball tries to grow within that, and everyone universally has embraced, oh my God, the shortstop's got a mic on and he's getting paid $10,000 for putting that mic on, because they do that in baseball. If you're in the field wearing a microphone, they pay you for it. And now there's a ground ball to short and he's talking to the announcers, fields it, throws it to first. That's a cool moment. I like that. This has been universally applauded, the extra access.
Yes, except when it gets in the way of, again, the cardinal rule, which is, we got to be able to watch the thing, the reason why we're all here. And the question I ask is, why did the interview need to be full screen? Do I need to see who's being interviewed in order for that to pay off or value to the viewer?
I think fans love the access. They want the access during regular season games. Give it to me during game 122. Postseason, the baseball is what I want to see. I don't want access. I want access to the game. Give me the game.
Yeah, that is Stugotz old school baseball. We're going to have Mad Dog on here in a little bit to talk old school baseball.
How is it old school? I just want to see the game. I don't want an interview with a guy who just drove in 2 runs for the Brewers. Therefore, I'm missing what's going on the field. I don't want to see it. I'm a Mets fan. I know what he did to me, and I certainly don't want to hear about it after the fact. I mean, Jesus.
Isn't that up to the just crew behind the scenes to make sure that they're switching at the right time? Because really the issue here was that the interview was happening and they didn't switch back to the action quick enough. So to Amin's point, you put the interview in a little box, you're good to go, or you got to be on top of your stuff. There's a pitch clock. You know when the ball is going to be thrown. You can switch back and forth between the two.
I mean, I feel like we've had this for at least 2 decades, the idea of like the interview starts with like, hey, we're here with so-and-so, and then immediately it starts to shrink to a box that throws to the side. I think I remember NBC doing stuff like that for NBA games. It's just like, yeah, you just throw it to the corner, and then we're watching the actual action. Another example of this happening, by the way, Dan, 1990, the first time I believe the World Cup is televised in America live and not on tape delay. And it's like, hey, soccer, this is the biggest sport in the world. We're going to introduce it to an American audience. And, because 4 years later it's coming to the USA, so let's get it warmed up. Everyone's like, okay, soccer, what's the big fuss? And they're watching, and it was Italy against, I can't remember who, but it was a 0-0 game. And in our stupid American kind of exceptionalism way, we're like, well, nothing's happened. Let's cut to a commercial right now. They cut to a commercial. The 1 goal is scored. The game ends 1-0. And basically you got 87 minutes of just people passing it back and forth in the middle of the field. And that was the inception of, if you watch a soccer game now, they have like Visa in the corner, and then it changes to like Nestle or whatever. They did that because of that game in 1990.
I can't believe what Jeremy is saying is so, but in my lifetime, it has not been so. Hey, people broadcasting baseball, the game's moving too fast. get away from your interview and get back to my ninth inning, please. Like, that's where we are with playoff baseball.
Jeremy's right, though. The people that are tuning in to watch playoff baseball want to see the action. And, for example, if I'm tuning in to watch college football, I want to see college football. I don't want to see Aaron Judge. I don't want to see the quarterback of another college football team being interviewed during my team's college football game, Dan. I just want to see the action. And if it's a little slow in between plays or pitches, then, I don't know, vamp. That's what we do that all the time, right? Just vamp. I don't need to see extra stuff.
Well, you have found yourself in an unusual position of rooting against your man's teams recently, correct? Like, I haven't seen a whole. I haven't. Lehman. Your Lee man, I have not seen you in a position before where you're secretly, does he know you were rooting against his team because you didn't want to have to watch more baseball?
Yes. During the Mets doubleheader the other day, I was just openly cheering for the Braves. I need 2 nights off during the week. There's WNBA playoffs going on. There's college football. There's NFL. And now we got Mets games that I got to watch. I want to watch a Netflix show just one night of the week. Just give me one night where I can watch something on Netflix. And now we've got Mets. I walked in this morning. I said, Jer Bear, did the Mets win? He said, yep. And I said, oh, I can't keep watching them. They were so bad all year except the month of June because of goddamn Grimace. I wrote them off months ago. I said, oh, I'm finally going to have some free days in my fall. No playoff baseball. My team sucks. His team sucks. No, his team sucks, but they still came back and made the playoffs. It's ridiculous.
We all wrote them off. We were playing their sad broadcasters talking about being at the bottom of a well and the bottom of the standings. Have they lured you back in, Stugotz? Like, are you watching? You were a few outs. You've had your heart broken by hoping in the Jets recently, and you got really mad at them this week with everything that happened against the Broncos. Did you get sucked into the Mets were a few outs last night from not being the Mets and advancing in the playoffs, and then the 8th inning happens?
They were 6 outs away from making it to the NLDS. I didn't think that was possible back in May, June, July. I have been with this team the entire time, Dan. I don't know what you're talking about.
That's not true.
I have been a Met fan since 1978. How dare you question my bona fides?
Stugotz.
I mean, Jess wants to watch Netflix. I want to watch Metflix. How about that?
Stugotz, we played that game around here. What's the name of the game, Jeremy, where we show you a player without telling you who the player is and do a trivia
Who dat
game?
is?
Yeah, thank you. Who dat is. We played that with you, and they showed you a picture of Francisco Lindor.
Frankie. Yeah.
And you did not know who the shortstop of the Mets was. Don't tell me you've been with this team the whole way. But you were watching last night? Were you in the middle of it and feeling genuine Mets feelings?
I was, yeah, because I feel like they blew a great opportunity to close that out. Again, they were 6 outs away from advancing on to the NLDS, and it was interesting to see Mendoza come in. I can't remember the name of the pitcher who was in. Was it Madden? It was Madden. And I can't believe Madden, who's been great all season, Dan. If you watch this team all year, you know that Madden has been one of the best guys out of the pen for them. He didn't have his stuff last night. And for Mendoza to leave him in that game 6 outs away from making the NLDS in a 3-3 game big spot when it was clear to everyone he did not have his good stuff, that is a terrible job by the manager. And I'm not certain, Dan, if they lose here game 3 to the Brewers, they shouldn't fire that manager.
Oh, come on.
You're telling me that they lost last night and I still have to watch another game?
The only game 3 in the wild card series. You get extra baseball, Jess.
Best 2 words in sports, game 3.
I thought you were going to say extra baseball.
I was curious how you guys felt about what was happening in another game. The announcer, Ben McDonald, you guys are very superstitious. I am not. And there was an announcer jinx situation where Seth Lugo is pitching and they're talking about how he hasn't allowed an extra base hit in I don't know how many games. And then immediately Cedric Mullins ends up hitting a home run. And it made me get to thinking, I didn't realize this, Chris. Did you realize it? A whole lot of people are noticing that all the Dolphins that we interviewed this preseason are getting injured. That every one of them. Jalen Phillips is out now. Mostert is out. Tua
River
is
Craycraft got injured like right after we interviewed him.
I'm not going to lie. I'm a little worried for James Carville.
It's Sealer.
Sealer's still with us.
Sealer's the only one.
Is he the only one that has not been injured?
Yeah.
We've played a month of season. Every person we talked to has been injured?
You know who I miss right now? Bob Einstein. To just come in and say, It's all our fault. There's a curse on the show.
Well, according to the audience, we killed him too.
Oh,
so.
shit.
That is true. Do you guys believe in the announcer jinx, though? That's not something you guys do, is it? And forgive me for feeling a little distracted. I am looking up the box score. I don't think that Stugotz has the right name of the right pitcher in describing what he's talking about when it comes to his team. I don't think that he's got the right guy.
Well, it's spelled Maton. It's Phil Maton, I believe, but he said Madden. I'm not actually sure how it's pronounced,
I
but
think
that's
it's
why
Madden.
you're confused because it's Maton and you're assuming it's something different.
It's pronounced maton. It's French.
Silent
he's
T,
Phil.
Dano. Yeah.
You don't know the name of the pitcher, do you? You don't.
Madden.
If we started quizzing you on the names of the Mets, would you be able to do their lineup? Would you even be able to do their lineup as someone who's claiming to have followed the Mets all season and still be all about the Mets?
I mean, you can give it a try. A lineup is just names. That's all it is. I mean, it's just names. I mean, it's not a test of
He's not
your
here for a
fandom,
quiz,
right?
Dan.
But go ahead, give it a shot if you want. I mean, whatever.
I'm asking
There's a
you.
Nemo in there. There's a Lindor in there. There's a polar bear in there. Peter Alonso. I mean, that's all you need to know.
Nemo.
Yeah.
You don't know?
Brandon Nimmo. Yeah.
There's not a Nemo in there.
And you're flounder, Dan.
Thank you, Jess. Are you aware? I was coming in. I wanted to ask you this because I was listening to Outkast on the way in, and "Shake It Like a Polaroid Picture" was on, and it made me actually wonder if Jeremy, Tony, and Jessica would know what it is to shake it like a Polaroid picture. You probably know what a Polaroid picture is, but do you know what "shake it like a Polaroid picture" means?
Dan, my first ever camera was a Polaroid, and you're actually not supposed to shake it. You're supposed to just let it be. Apparently, shaking it is not good for the photo. But
That was bad advice.
I think I still have a Polaroid Mini. Polaroids, they had a moment in the 2000s, and now they're having a moment again.
coming back.
I think the second moment sort of ended a couple years ago, but they did have a distinct moment in the early 2020s. I want to say.
As a father of
Daughters?
a high school student, this is all the rage now. Like having a Polaroid, walking around taking pictures, and you're getting handed. Like they love this idea of the physical. Wow, the photo's not on my phone; it's in my hand, and you hand it to someone. They're infatuated about this. But I have to say, Dan, this is how deep and rotten my brain is now from doing this show for too many times, for too long. You said I was listening to Outkast, and I was like, is that the Outkick podcast? They call it Outkast?
I thought you meant like a podcast app called Outkast.
So I did all this other stuff, and then I was like, oh, yeah, that's right, Outkast.
Stugotz, how did you think the Mets reliever's name was pronounced?
Madden, last name.
Let's hear how it's pronounced.
Out number 2, and that's 3 consecutive strikeouts for Phil Maton.
Close.
You know what? I'm going to stick up for Stugotz. I don't have the volume on when I'm watching sports most of the time.
You're sticking up for me there. You're not sticking up for Stugotz. Everybody's been making fun of me because I haven't been listening to the volume on sports for the last 7 or 8 years.
But okay, that's odd because you seem to be the guy who's always talking about who's broadcasting what and who does a good job on what game and all that. And every time we have those conversations, I always slink into a corner because I have no idea who's good or bad because I'm not listening. I watch, I'm not listening though. And so Stugotz fell into the trap of a little game I like to call things I've read but never heard out loud. Right? And again, like
One of my favorites, yeah.
Maton, I don't know. It's Madden. Is it Maton?
Right.
Probably should be Maton.
You're assuming Boog Shambi got it right. I mean,
That's another point.
Right.
Speaking of announcers who do it well, Jason Benetti is going to be on with us later in the show. He does it as well as anybody. And, of course, Mad Dog as well is going to join us. I want to get back to, though, they're blaming us for injuring the Dolphins because if Monday's game wasn't bad enough, Poyer and Phillips were injured, both of them running into each other on the same play. People are blaming us for the curse of the Sealer's the only healthy one who has been able to get through a month of the Le Batard Show curse interviews. You guys believe in all of this stuff.
I don't believe in that stuff, but it's just the writing on the wall here. I mean, it's specifically the guys it's just, you couldn't, I mean, granted, we interviewed the more popular players, and they're the ones that just they play the most, so they're the most likely to get hurt. No, I mean that's just kind of how it works.
Well, the good news is we have some sample size because we did Miami Heat Media Day. Me, Chris, and Izzy were there.
No!
But listen, guys, listen. I think the sample size is if Dan and Stu are there, then there's an issue. Maybe Chris is the tie that binds everything, but we have at least another set of data to go off.
we also interviewed Bobrovsky. That's coming out soon.
Okay, so if any of those people get hurt, we know that it's Chris.
It's
and
Chris,
not
right?
Dan and not
Right, correct.
Got it.
When Chris says the writing on the wall, why is there writing on the wall? What was the origin?
Old biblical times, Dano. God wrote something on the wall to the Jews in Babylonia or something.
Nailed it.
I don't
yeah.
think that
What?
that's.
You can look it up. That's fine.
Okay, we're gonna look it up, but I
What
think-
happens if I'm right?
Well, you may have.
Do you go to the penalty box?
Well,
do
time out.
they go to the penalty box? Do I do the show by myself? What do you want to do?
You think you're going to be right with God wrote something on a wall in
Yes.
Babylonia?
To the Jews
Yes.
in
I think he's
Babylonia.
right, but I do love that Tony's telling you to look it up after you asked us to look it up.
Thank
Yes.
you, Stu.
Yeah.
Because he said I wasn't right, so I was like, okay, look it up.
I'm asking if you're sure you're right because it sounded like you threw some details out us and Babylonia didn't. You lost me at Babylonia is where you lost me.
What you did is not pay attention in Bible study class. That's what you didn't do.
That's true. You seem pretty confident here,
Thank you.
but you always seem pretty confident.
Thank you.
And I don't know that. So God wrote something as a warning to the Jews on the wall in Babylonia.
What was the warning?
What was he?
I mean, it was in Aramaic, I guess, or whatever.
The expression comes from the Bible, in which the prophet interprets some mysterious writing that a disembodied hand has inscribed on a palace wall, telling King Belshazzar that he will be overthrown. So I don't know if that's God to the Jews, but
It's pretty
close
close.
enough.
Is it
pretty close.
Babylonia?
Shana Tova.
Is it Babylonia though? Like that he lost me on Babylonia.
I love the idea of God's warning. What was the warning? Hey guys, don't eat the breakfast. It's got bacon in it.
Stugotz?
Babylonia is not right. That part is not right. Tony,
How do you know? You didn't look it up.
Well, I don't have to look it up. I'm Jewish, okay?
How?
By the way, shalom.
Oh yeah.
I think Tony is he's right about writing things to the Jews. I just think he got it wrong with Babylonia.
Where the king of this place? What is the place of the king?
to
What's his
know.
kingdom?
I'd
Jeremy had it. What's the kingdom that he was presiding over?
I would like to know. You seem very confident on this, and your confidence is such that I sort of want to retreat. But I've seen you have confidence before and not be right.
Wasn't Balthazar one of the Magi? Who's King Balthazar?
No, God, no. What are you talking
Jer
about?
Bear.
Another person who did not pay attention.
God, yes.
What's magi? Is that plural for magic?
The three
Magician?
people that brought
The three
gifts
wise
to,
men.
to Jesus.
They're called the
Frankincense,
Magi?
myrrh. Yeah, the Magi.
Three wise men. That's what we call them.
Well, like what? Oh, now
Rey
they got a
Mago.
name? Wise men.
The wise king.
What is
Tony was also confident about Davis Mills, so we got to take this with a grain of
Yeah,
salt.
I know. Yes, that's true. What is the third of those? It is frankincense and myrrh, and what is the third one?
Was
There's
it
Incense.
Incense? That's what. Yeah.
Gold, frankincense, and myrrh.
Gold- oh,
Guys,
it is
come
gold.
on,
Frankincense
jeez.
is incense.
It is gold because I remember a Gary Larson cartoon a long time ago where the other two wise men are pissed at the one that brought gold. Like we had a limit. We all agreed to a limit. We can make us look like assholes now.
It's funny because I was just telling Lehman on the way into work today. Religion was one of my worst classes. So
Nice.
Let me play some sound here for you guys. Speaking of the Dolphins, who are very injured, and it has a great deal to do with what it is that's happening with the Dolphins. But I want to play for you Craig Carton. He is now officially dismissing all of the Dolphins, and the season is over 4 games in. Let's hear this.
The Dolphins aren't a very good football team. Period. Stop. You don't have a competent quarterback. Your head coach is the most overrated coach maybe in the history of football. It is very frustrating. Consider Mr. Mike McDaniels right now, who's supposed to be this offensive guru and the wonder kid. He's 1-6 without Tua. In those 7 games, they've only thrown for 6 touchdown passes. And as you can see there, a lot of turnovers, not a lot of points. So two things on this, right? Number one, the Dolphins season's over. We can all agree to that. So let's just move on from that. Number 2, and I'm asking for America right now. When do we all agree that it's time to get off the Mike McDaniel choo-choo train of he's the future of the NFL? He has never coached the team to a playoff win. As you saw there, he stinks without Tua, who's, in my opinion, an average quarterback anyway. And he doesn't do anything all that creative to win games.
The scheme seemed to have worked to the best offense in the league last year. So it feels like this is a bit kind of shell gamey when it comes to there's a lot of injuries. And one thing that is maybe right, he has a tough time playing from behind against, on the road against good teams. That is true. We've seen that. But we've also seen this offense work really, really well.
I mean, tell me you're a Jets fan without telling me you're a Jets fan. I mean, geez, that's all I heard there. Jets, I'm a Jets fan. I'm a Jets fan. I hate the Dolphins.
Let me hear that again. I want to hear it again.
Oh, must we?
Yes.
The Dolphins aren't a very good football team. Period. Stop. You don't have a competent quarterback. Your head coach is the most overrated coach maybe in the history of football. It is very frustrating. Consider Mr. Mike McDaniels right now, who's supposed to be this offensive guru and the wonder kid. He's 1-6 without Tua. In those 7 games, they've only thrown for 6 touchdown passes. And as you can see there, a lot of turnovers, not a lot of points. So two things on this, right? Number one, the Dolphins season's over. We can all agree to that. So let's just move on from that. Number 2, and I'm asking for America right now. When do we all agree that it's time to get off the Mike McDaniel choo-choo train of he's the future of the NFL? He has never coached the team to a playoff win. As you saw there, he stinks without Tua, who's, in my opinion, an average quarterback anyway. And he doesn't do anything all that creative to win games.
Craig Carton isn't a very good broadcaster, period, stop. You don't have competent leadership in this business. You have a broadcaster who's maybe the most overrated broadcaster in the history of broadcasting. It's very frustrating. Consider this. Mr. Craig Cartons, who's supposed to be an offensive guru and wonder kid, he's a 3.5 years in prison without a microphone. In those 3.5 years, he only defrauded $4.8 million from investors. And as you can see there, lots of blackjack, lots of securities fraud, wire fraud. 2 things on this. Number 1, Fox Sports' reputation is over. We can all agree on that. So let's move on from that. Number 2, and I'm asking for America right now, when do we all agree that it's time to get off the Craig Carton choo-choo train? That he's not the future of broadcasting. He has never broadcasted credibly. As you saw there, he stinks without the shock jockey stuff, which in my opinion is average anyway, and he doesn't do anything creative.
I do kind of agree with him, though.
Same.
Also, Dan, you needed to be a lot more breathless when you did that in order to really hit those
higher pitch too.
Where are we? Get on the choo-choo train. I was like, damn, man, get that guy an oxygen tank.
Like an octave higher too would have been great. You did a little too low. Usually you're a little.
I'm not good at the shock jockey stuff.
You want to try it again?
Maybe hit the casino before you come into work before you do it next time.
Do some jumping jacks so you can get a little out of breath.
All right, let's see if I try it again.
Have a heater.
Ooh, I want to see Dan do jumping jacks.
Okay. All right, so we're going to coach Dan up.
There we go.
Listening audience.
He should do it while he's doing jumping jacks. I mean,
Get those arms all the way
Arms
down,
straight,
Dano.
arms
Too much.
straight.
Too much.
All the way down. All the way down.
All we're trying to do is get the cardio up, guys. We're not trying to get a full workout.
Get him to do
here.
some high knees. I mean,
Greg would die if he did this.
Yes.
They want you to do some high knees.
Greg
by
would
the
have
way.
already been dead.
Get some high knees. Okay. There you
Oh,
go.
all right.
Whoa.
Yeah.
The same time. There we go.
Alternate.
That's
alternate.
something.
Alternate.
You're doing something.
All right, I think that's enough, right? I don't want them to drop dead on us. All right, here we go, Dan. Now, do it again. A little bit more high pitched.
Yep.
And a little bit, give us some oomph. Not.
I don't think I'm breathless enough, though, yet.
Yes,
think
you
I
are.
am?
I just
More
heard him.
jumping
I
jacks?
just
Go
just
ahead.
heard it. He's,
Yeah, go.
no, he's
Do a
not.
few
How
more.
about
No, okay.
open the gate, close the gate.
More.
Hip flexion.
Okay. So, for the listening audience, we've got Dan doing calisthenics here. He's trying to get his heart rate up, get a little out of breath so he can better recreate the Carton experience. Ladies and gentlemen, this is called method acting, right? Some people, they just walk in there and they just do the lines. No, not Dan Le Batard. Not Dan Le Batard. He goes through all the motions to get himself prepared for the role. Here we go.
Craig Carton isn't a very good broadcaster, period, stop. You don't have competent leadership in this business. You have a broadcaster who is maybe the most overrated broadcaster in the history of broadcasting. It's very frustrating. Consider this. Mr. Craig Carton's now, who's supposed to be this offensive guru and wonder kid, he's 3.5 years in prison without a microphone. This is too breathy.
Keep going.
In his 3.5 years, he only defrauded $4.8 million from investors. And as you can see there, a lot of blackjack, a lot of securities fraud and wire fraud. 2 things on this.
2.
Number 1, Fox Sports' reputation is over. We can all agree to that. So let's move on from that. Number 2, and I'm asking for America right now, when do we all agree it's time to move off of Craig Carton choo-choo train, that he's the future of broadcasting? He's never broadcasted credibly. As you see there, he stinks without the shock jockey stuff, which in my opinion is average anyway, and he doesn't do anything creative.
Good stuff.
Woo! Better. Daniel Le Batard. I mean, how about that?
Still not good enough. It's still
Again?
No, well, you think I should do it again?
Maybe.
But the Dolphins season is over, right? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I totally agree with him.
Yeah.
And McDaniel has to wear some of that.
Does he?
Some of it, not all of it.
It's always interesting to me when it's like coach who wins with great talent, and then the talent gets hurt. And everyone's like, "You're not that good of a coach." Like, well,
That's why I said some, not all.
it just doesn't make sense to me. Like, people wanted Phil Jackson to win a championship with like Smush Parker and Kwame Brown. I'm like, well, that's not how this thing works, right? That's how it works. And by the way, you can't say Tua's an average quarterback and also Mike McDaniel doesn't do anything. Like, it's got to be one or two. Either Tua's amazing and anybody could have done that, or Mike McDaniel's a pretty good coach who got this average quarterback to lead the best offense in the league. But you can't have them both.
Carton mentioned the Mike McDaniel choo-choo train, and I can't think of anything more frustrating than being on the Mike McDaniel choo-choo train, because it's like, all right, I'm in Miami, I need to get to Broward. It's going to take me to like West Palm Beach first, and he's just going to make a stop here. It's meandering, this train that
Inefficient.
I'm on. And it's like, I need point A to point B.
It's going to totally crap out, and the engine's going to fall out if it's cold once it gets cold in Kansas City.
That's why you hop off now. I mean, that's what he's saying. Carton's right.
The Carton train doesn't sound much better, though. Dan mentioned that. There's not a lot of not great trains we're talking about.
The Carton train goes to prison. That's
I
the problem.
think it doesn't help Mike McDaniel at all that when Garoppolo gets hurt, all of a sudden the last pick in the draft is Brock Purdy, and he's suddenly doing that in San Francisco.
But Dan, we always talk about this. We talked about this with Tom Brady. We talked about it with Russell Wilson. I know Brock Purdy was the last pick, but it's like, is it that Shanahan is just this genius who can literally take anybody and win with them? Or is it, hey, maybe we all whiffed on this talent in the draft?
Well, we've been having this conversation for a long time. One of Greg Cody's best lines in the Miami Herald, I've told you this before, Chicago Bulls are playing the Miami Heat in the playoffs. They are up 3-0. They have Michael Jordan. Phil Jackson has to go to his son's graduation, and he helicopters into a Bulls Heat game when the Bulls are up 3-0. And Greg Cody wrote, "Never has a man rushed more to a place he was needed less." Of course you need great players.
He's a writer.
Of course you need great players. But you rarely see what just happened to the Dolphins, which is the tide has totally turned on Mike McDaniel in 2 games because of how bad they look, because of how good he made them look before that. It's totally changed.
Right.
Like the way the noise has gotten now, because what Tony was saying is that I'm still breathless. That offense, what we saw from Tua, who we thought might be average, was that he led the league in passing. And rare is the time where you see something happen like that, from average to leads the league in passing. I don't understand how that happened. It must be the coach. It must be the coach who has fixed everything there. And then as soon as Tua leaves, the coach loses all of his genius because he cannot do it with anybody.
He can't do it with Skylar Thompson, who we all agree isn't good enough to be a QB1.
But we would have all agreed when Brock Purdy was drafted, he's not good enough to be QB1 either.
Unless Brock Purdy was good, and we just didn't know it, right?
Sure, he's good, but again, it's the scheme, it's the players, it's the offensive line, it's the playing complementary football with the defense who's best in the league, like it's very easy to kind of step in and just play point guard when you have everything. It's like playing quarterback at Alabama. Yeah, I've got a guy who's 17 years old who's going to lead the NCAA in receiving. It's like, oh, okay, cool.
Here's another discussion to have because we had this, Chris, before the season started. Why not sign Ryan Tannehill, right? And everyone was like, well, Ryan Tannehill wants to start. We're like, well, clearly on day one, he's not going to start anywhere. 32 teams have their quarterbacks. But if I were Ryan Tannehill, the team I would pick is the one with the quarterback who has a history of getting knocked out. And this place was the perfect place. And to me, if Ryan Tannehill were here right now to have stepped in and went to camp and did all the reps and everything, and now he steps in, are we having this conversation? Maybe because there have been other injuries. Maybe because, again, we had some losses in the offensive line over the offseason.
He'd be more likely to look at least like Mason Rudolph.
Yes.
Not great, but competent.
Right. That's sort of my point is that, like, they should still be able to beat the Titans at home on Monday night against the Titans' backup quarterback, too. But at the same time, like, it's hard to sign a quarterback that's been around for like a week and put him in and start him. So it's bad planning, which is why I don't think it's all on McDaniel, because they didn't have a great backup plan if there was an injury to Tua. And that sort of shows when you lose with your third string quarterback to a second string quarterback on Monday night.
Which, again, Jessica, hammers home the point. Like, you knew who your QB1 was. You didn't get Iron Man there. They knew who that guy was, and to say, we'll be fine, it's kind of ridiculous.
I don't know if Dan said this yesterday or if somebody else had said it, but Mike McDaniel didn't look like he changed any of the offense when Snoop Huntley, Dominique said it, okay, so he didn't change the offense whatsoever. And you have a guy coming in off the street who's a good quarterback, right? Played well after Lamar Jackson got hurt, made a Pro Bowl, asterisk, whatever, not the point. The point is he's a competent quarterback and a good quarterback who can play in the NFL, and he looked incompetent. Looking at the other side of the ball, the Titans have a sneaky, really good defense, right? So it's kind of a push and pull of McDaniel should have changed the offensive scheme, but he was playing a good defense.
Well, I would say this, though. I will say it. The thing that McDaniel is being compared against is Malik Willis played for Green Bay, and LaFleur did change all the things that needed to be changed so that Malik Willis, who none of us have seen play well before, didn't look like Skylar Thompson, didn't look like Huntley when we were watching the game. And as all these new whiz kids come rushing through here, as you find all of these Shanahans and the Shanahan disciples who are doing things, admittedly, that most of us, I'm going to say more than 99.5% of us who are watching on Sundays don't actually understand what these human beings know that we don't know when they're offensive geniuses. The other guys that McDaniel is compared to don't look like that, while I'm watching Sam Darnold all of a sudden look like somebody that I don't recognize. And so that's what he's being compared against. It's just rare to see it all evaporate in 2 games. It's super weird to see this cascade down on the head of Mike McDaniel, because it's not merely that you're losing. That's one thing. It's that you're watching the coach on the sideline, comparing it to what you're seeing on the field, and you're saying, that's not competent. What's happening out there when they go down 15-6, that game is over. There will be no coming back here from a team that 2 weeks ago, if you told me they were down 21 points, I'd be like, that's all right. They can figure that out. They've been good at coming back. They know how to do that. To go from that if you're down 14 points, I trust you, to I don't believe that you can come down from 15-6 because your coach has nothing, it's pretty rare to see that happen, that quote-unquote genius evaporate in 2 weeks.
Can we give it one more week? Like, Tyler Huntley was just signed. Skylar Thompson's clearly a terrible quarterback. Huntley just fit into 1 week of game planning. If he goes a second week as a skilled guy with no adjustments to the offense and those types of struggles, then I'm willing to jump off. But can we just give it one more week before we totally abandon him?
I guess my big issue with everything that is being said is it seems like the standard for whether you're a good coach or not is, can you win with an ass quarterback? That's what, like, it's like, hey, it's all good to win when you got talent.
I mean, that's Belichick's entire
Mike Tomlin
genius.
has done it for the last 5 years.
That's his specialty.
Belshazzar, Babylonian king, according to Wikipedia.
Yeah.
Wow. This is not television hair, Mad Dog. This is not ready for first take on Wednesdays, Mad Dog. This is hair blown back by Mets in the playoffs, Mad Dog. Look at him.
That's it.
That your hair is crazed because you had the 8th inning last night. You were ready for the Mets to advance, and like choking dogs, Mad Dog, they sent you to bed reeling with your fists tight, I imagine. How mad were you last night seeing the end of that baseball game?
Well, I'm not a Met fan per se, so that helps a little bit, but I am rooting for the Mets because I want to see him against the Phillies. That's a horrendous loss. Mendoza left Maton in way too long. I mean, he gave up 2 singles and a homer and a hard-hit double play ground ball. Get him out of the game, please. Jeez, put somebody else in. And then, of course, the kid hits the homer off. I would have brought Peterson in, the starter, lefty-lefty. That's what I would have done. But he didn't. He hits the home run. They lose the game, and now the Mets are in a death knell here with Milwaukee. 50-50 game tonight. I mean, I would think the Mets have a good chance because they've won these kind of games all year, but that was a terrible loss. They're 5 or 6 outs away from getting into the next round. They got Milwaukee reeling, and they let it slip through their hands. So this will be a fascinating game tonight, a game that's got some drama to it. It's a game 3. There's very few game 3s in these wild card series, but that is one a Met fan. That stings, Danny. That stings last night. No doubt about it.
I see your eyes are closed because you're in a hypnotic baseball state. I've been listening to your show the last couple of weeks.
October.
Yes, what's happened? I saw you breaking down tiebreakers because you were doing Kansas City Royals schedule and seeing that they had to go 9-4 down the stretch because you are in your element right now. There is nothing, right? Is there anything in sports that does what this time of year does to you?
That's a good point. The thing about the baseball you love, there's a game every night in October. And it's not once a week. It's a game every night. So you had 3 games, 4 games yesterday. You got a game today. You got 4 games Saturday. You got 2 games Sunday, albeit against the football. And then you got games all next week. So these games are good because you got multiple games. And I've said it before. Dave Anderson used to tell me this, and he's 1,000% right. The Pulitzer Prize winning writer for the Times. Baseball at its highest level. Now, that doesn't mean people are going to watch it. And I know that this is not 1960. I get it. But baseball at its highest level, where there's intensity and its playoff implications, the drama of it is, to me, unsurpassed because there's no clock. You have to get 27 outs. And I think that makes it the moment of truth can come at any time in the game. Moment of truth in the NBA in a playoff game does not come in the second quarter. The moment of truth in a hockey game doesn't necessarily come in the first period. Football, it doesn't come before halftime. In baseball, the moment of truth could come in the 5th inning, the 8th inning, the 2nd inning, and no clock, got to get 27 outs. It makes it a fascinating scenario. Now, listen, I'm not saying in June, White Sox Angels is must-watch TV. Don't get me wrong. Regular season baseball, it takes forever, 162 games. I understand. But when you get to this level, it's fun. And that game tonight, if you're a sports fan, all right, you want to watch the Falcons in the which most of America will do against Tampa, I get it. And I'll have that game flipping around too. Although with Amazon, it drives you crazy because it's a different remote, which is another thing that drives you nuts. You can't flip it around because you got the thing on the Amazon, which, Roger Goodell doesn't care.
So right.
As long as the money comes in, he don't care if we're inconvenienced as a sports fan. But, Mets Brewers tonight's a good event. It's a good sporting event. Net fans will be into it. Mets Phillies would be a great series. San Diego Dodgers, 5-game series. That's going to be an absolute Donnybrook. But again, I'm not saying it's for everybody. I'm just saying if you like sports, if you get to these kind of scenarios, it can be enthralling. There's no question about it.
I have to, and I'm hesitant to do this because you're a legend. I have to just mildly correct you on something.
Oh, stop it.
You've been saying for so long correctly that baseball has no clock, but it does now have a single clock. Like it doesn't have a clock at the end of the game, but they have added a bunch of things to baseball to make it more interesting. I don't know whether you like these things. I do. They've made everything better, I think.
Oh, you're right, Dan. I mean, look, the San Diego Brave game 2 nights ago was 2 hours and 9 minutes. I mean, think about it. The Braves and Padres. Now, listen, it was a low-scoring, 4-1, whatever it was, low-scoring game. But 2 nights ago, that's 2 hours and 9. That's unheard of. It's almost too quick. But yes, the clock is a much needed. They did a very good job. I know people don't like the ghost runner and they don't like, certain things like that in the 10th inning. I don't have a problem with it. They don't do it in the postseason. And of course, the scenario with the clock moves the games along. They did an excellent job with that. I am 100% right. I like that. Now, listen, the thing, I don't like their playoff structure. I mean, there's no way the Yankees are going to play 2 games in 10 days. I mean, that's ridiculous. They won a division. They finished the season last Sunday. They don't play for 6 days. And then they got off days all over the place as they get started. They play Saturday, Monday, and Wednesday. I mean, that's 2 games in 10 games and 10 days. I mean, you can't get into any rhythm. So that does drive me crazy. And, they do it for the television and all that nonsense. And I wouldn't do it that way. I wouldn't worry about it, but they do it. It's the way it is. The NBA's first round takes 2 weeks. That's stupid, too. The NFL, they put the games on Peacock in the postseason. I can't stand that. Listen, TV rules the world, Dan. You and I both know that. Stugotz, you and I both know that. You got to live with it. But, again, for drama this next 8-9 days with all the games, it's fun. It's fun.
Doggy, you agree, right? Otani needs to do it in October, right?
I'm going to give him a break this first one because this is his first ever time. He's been so great, MVP, the whole bit. What, are we going to kill him? But he has a bad first season. Bonds had a lot of bad playoffs before he finally had a couple of good ones when he was on steroids. I mean, Bonds was bad. He was bad in 90 with the Pirates. He was bad all those years. He couldn't hit himself out of a paper bag. I had John Franco on the other day talking about Pete Rose, and he's still mocking me because he struck Bonds out at the end of Game 2 in 2000, which spurred the Mets to beat the Giants, which drove me crazy. And Bonds was awful striking out there. But the bottom line is that Otani, I'm going to give him a little pass, and I don't think he's going to be bad. I think he's going to be good anyway, and that is going to be a great series. I mean, Padres-Dodgers. Padres are 44-20 since July, whatever it might be. They hate each other, the rivalry. That's going to be a good series. Now, again, are we going to watch it in, Walla Walla, Washington? Is it going to be on in Arlington, Virginia? At 11 o'clock at night? We'll have to wait and see. But Otani should be a huge draw. I should Judge. And if they ever get Judge against Otani, Yankees, Dodgers in a World Series, they're going to have people talking about it. So from a baseball perspective, that's what they need. I think we all agree.
Mad Dog, yesterday Dan Le Batard said that Shohei Otani's season was more impressive than anything Barry Bonds did.
No, I did not say that.
Career.
I said the last 2 months of what I said is that the last 2 months of Otani, it is not ridiculous because David Sampson said that it's not even close. Barry Bonds' best 2 month stretch versus Otani's best 2 month stretch, and I said it is ridiculous to say that anyone was appreciably better than what Otani has been the last 2 months. You can't say the last couple of months of Otani have been as well as a baseball player can play.
I agree. And how can anybody bring up Bonds because everybody knows he was on the steroids? I mean, how does anybody who is a baseball fan consider, listen, I'm a Giant fan. So if anybody's going to appreciate Bonds, it's going to be me. But Bonds between 2000 and 2007, his head grew 3 times the size and he was on the juice. He never hit any more than 46 homers and all of a sudden he's hitting 73. I mean, come on. Same with McGuire, same with Sosa. So I put a big asterisk next to that. I do not put an asterisk next to Otani. The one thing I didn't like, guys, I did not like that last at bat against the Marlins when he hit the 3-run homer at 17-3 against a positional player. That to me was overkill. He shouldn't have been in the game. So to me, the 6 for 6 with the 10 RBIs, it was almost like 5 for 5 with 7 RBIs. That to me was stupid. Betts was out of the game. Freeman was out of the game. He had already hit his 50th homer. He had his 50th stolen base. He should not have been in the game. That's me. Now, a lot of people think I'm crazy. This is theater. This is entertainment. They came to see Otani. They had 15,000 at Marlins Park that night. Don't give me the idea that 50,000 were still sitting in the stands watching Otani. That's nonsense. So I wouldn't have done that. But I think, Danny, you were right. I think the last couple of months under pressure, scrutiny, stolen bases, home runs, you have to give, and I'm not a huge Otani fan, but you got to give him his due. He was superb. And think about it.
How could you not be a huge Otani fan? What's the matter with you?
I'm just not as big. I mean, I am a fan, but the Ruth comparison drives me crazy. But I will say this. there's only one player in the history of the 50 homer, 50 stolen base thing that you could actually even consider that may have been able to do what Otani did, and that would have been Willie Mays in 1955. There are 50 guys who have hit the 50 homers, but Ruth wasn't going to steal 50 bases. Hank Greenberg wasn't going to steal 50 bases. The only guy, McGuire wasn't going to do it. The only guy that could have done it was Mays, who in 55 hit 50-something homers, and he had 24 stolen bases. The next year he had 40, and he led the league. He was 23 years old. If Willie wanted to steal 50 bases in 1955, Willie would have stolen a 50 base. That's the only guy. So from what he did this year, pretty damn impressive what he did.
Barry Bonds, when you mention him, it's not just his first postseason. Because
it's 7 or 8.
No, he was so bad. He was
terrible.
He could not hit at all in the postseason until the season when he had the 73 home runs. Yeah, and all of a sudden he corrected all of his career averages in the postseason. But that was one of the most puzzling things you've seen in baseball. I got to imagine the fact that he would be a terrible baseball player in the postseason.
I think he hit 1 home run in 97 at-bats before he went crazy against the Angels in the 2002 World Series. I think in that series he was 8 for 17 with 13 walks, if I remember, which was astronomical. But that was 0-2, and, the steroids had done something to him. Now, remember, Troy Glaus won that World Series for the Angels, and he did steroids too. So let's keep in mind on that. I'm not blaming – that's not the reason why – the Angel fan, he was on, hold on, your guy was on the juice too. I say, I'm big on the steroids thing. A lot of fans don't care about it. I do. But Bonds, between that period there, 3 years for the Pirates, 97, the game against the Marlins, he was awful. 99 against the Cubs, he was awful. Against the Mets, he was awful. I mean, all those years in the postseason, Bonds couldn't hit himself out of a paper bag. Go look up the numbers. Don't go by me. Go look them up. I was at half the games. And so as a result of that, that to me as a Giant fan affects how great he was. Now, the funny thing is, his first year as a Giant in 93, he was unbelievable. He had 46 homers. He had 123 or 127 RBIs with the equal amount of runs scored. The guy was unbelievable. He was 2 homers and 7 RBIs late in the year. He was great. But in the postseason, Bonds had some trouble. So that's just all there is to it. I don't give Otani, I don't want to say it's a complete pass, but I think Otani, you got to give him a little break. It is his first ever postseason. Bonds had many of them. I'll tell you the guy who's got some pressure on him. How about Judge getting some hits?
Yep.
Judge has not been good in the postseason. He's got a last postseason, he hit 130. He's a 219 career postseason hitter. Judge needs a good postseason for the Yankees. Let's see what he does here. And the Yankees, I'll say something else. The Yankees right now, they're up against the American League Central. If the Yankees can't get to the World Series against the Guardians, Tigers, and Kansas City, that is Houston's out. The Orioles are out. If Boone and the Yankees can't figure out a way to get to the World Series, a place they haven't been in 15 years, against the American League Central, that's a very bad look. Extra pressure on the Yankees with what's going on so far in the postseason.
Mad Dog, I'm headed to see Springsteen in concert the next time he comes around. I'm looking for your advice at a Springsteen concert and your top 5 songs by the boss.
Oh, Wheelhouse.
I was very lucky because I saw him in Camden Yards 3 weeks ago, and I wanted to hear, I gave him a list of 6 songs, and I wanted to hear all 6. And I got 5 of the 6. So I was very fortunate. I think, he's going to Canada. I think you have to hear Rosalita. He's 50-50 with playing that right now. He does not play it in Europe. He's 50-50 right now playing it here.
What are you scratching? What are you scratching back there?
He's
What's
talking Springsteen.
My shoulder hurts there, Danny. James, give me a break. I'm an old man.
You gave Springsteen 6 songs that you requested?
I didn't give it to him. I said it on the air.
Hey, play 5. He was listening, doggy. He was listening. Everyone's listening, doggy.
I wanted to hear Lonesome Day. I got it. I wanted to hear Atlantic City. I got it. I wanted to hear No Surrender. I got it. I wanted to hear Bobby Jean. I got it. And I wanted to hear Rosalita. I got it. I was texting Stephen A. I was texting Steven Van Zandt at 2 o'clock that afternoon. And I said, Steve, how about Lonesome Day in the middle of a gummy? And he said, ha, 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 ha. And believe it or not, at 7:46 at night at Camden Yards, yes, Gummyville, and a break with Lonesome Day.
There was no advice given there. It was just
That's all right. It's fine. It's take a gummy and text Stevie Van Zandt.
Yeah, okay. Mad Dog, it is good seeing you. It is always good seeing you. I will tell the people you can get your baseball playoff energy from Mad Dog Sports Radio on Sirius XM. He hosts Mad Dog Unleashed weekdays, 3 p.m. Eastern, and he's also on MLB Network's High Heat and ESPN's First Take. Always good seeing you, sir. Thank you. Always.
Danny, great to have us. Stugotz, we love you guys all. Thanks for having me on.
Love you, Dougie.
Thank you. Always appreciate the time. Look at the smile on Amin's face.
You guys got to be on top of that shit, man. When that guy starts talking about texting Steven Van Zandt, your finger has to be hovering right over that
I was
button.
slow with the look at me, Louie.
Yeah, man.
I haven't been the same. I got to be honest. I have some remorse here about what happened in the first hour, and I will tell you why.
Well, before you do that, I do have some regrets about that interview. I had a question I wanted to ask, and I thought I was going to get in, but we ran out of time. But I was going to ask him at bat for your life, a variation of the Stugotz game.
Oh, wow.
Shot for your life.
Bonds Otani?
No, Ruth Otani.
Oh, wow. Next time.
Who do you think you would have gone with?
Ruth.
He said he wasn't that much of a fan of Otani.
Yeah,
but I'll give him a pass
because of the Ruth comparisons, and that was when it dawned on me. I was like, holy shit! You think at bat for his life? If I tell him, hey, we got a pitching machine on the mound, and we're going Otani or Ruth, he's picking Ruth.
Pitching machine.
Yeah,
it's got to be a real pitcher.
Do you know how confused Babe Ruth would be by a pitching machine?
That's true.
Right. Yes.
Otani's on the mound, I think.
Otani's on the mound.
Oh, they got to
right?
pitch to each other.
But Otani grooves one. Well, no, he wouldn't groove one into himself. So no.
Well, no, they got to.
He's got to throw it and then run really fast to home plate.
I believe he could do it. I believe he could throw it, run, grab the bat, hit it, go yard, and then run out and catch it.
It's too bad we didn't have time for that question.
No, right?
You could have done all of
We're
that
really
with
getting
him.
to the good stuff now.
Yeah.
The regret that I have in the first hour, and I don't know if this is what happened, but I felt like it was what was happening. I was just doing bit on Craig Carton. However, I will say, while my objection, because I am always pro forgiveness on just about everything, especially when you've served your time for mistakes. My objection to everything that's happened with Craig Carton is about the industry. It's not about Craig Carton. It's about the idea that that somebody would get second chances when whatever the skill set is of what we do isn't that special. That second chances need to be given around here for talking into microphones. But you can object to that in a second. Can I get to my regret?
I didn't
though?
say anything. I'm making faces.
You did say you said whoa, and then you threw up your hands and you distracted me.
Let him cleanse his soul, man. Go ahead.
Go ahead, please continue.
Dan, Babe Ruth actually would have seen a pitch machine because the pitch machine was invented in 1897.
Huh.
2 years after Babe Ruth was born. So in his prime,
wow,
he would have been taking hacks out of a pitching machine.
The pitching machine was invented in 1897?
That first one.
Charles Howard Hinton invented the first pitch machine in 1897 at Princeton
I need
University.
to see what that first one looked like.
Was it coal powered?
It
I have
was
black smoke coming out the top of it.
It was gunpowder.
Oh, even better.
Assembled by a catapult and was powered by gunpowder to provide a consistent, accurate pitches for the Princeton baseball team.
Everybody who comes out of a bullpen now is powered by gunpowder. Everybody throwing
Of a different
100
kind.
miles an hour. So the thing that made me leak confidence on that is that I felt like the entire room recoiled when my first sentence was about Craig Carton not being a very good broadcaster. I felt like I lost there's the first pitching machine right there. It's a cannon.
Imagine you don't know if you're going to take BP or someone's
That
going to
thing
shoot you.
is terrifying.
That's the thing that Magnum PI's assistant shot in the intro.
That is well done by you. I mean, don't ever ask me the origins of why a guy has a cannon, okay?
I mean, you are so self-involved that you just referenced the Magnum PI intro that you referenced a week ago, expecting that people would know what you're talking about, because in the middle of the Magnum PI intro, his butler is inexplicably shooting a cannon. That's the reference that you just made.
That's the cannon he's shooting.
Everyone knows the Magnum PI intro, Dan.
Duh.
That's Stash, by the way.
Put it on the poll at Le Batard Show. Does everyone know the Magnum PI intro?
Are you done explaining your regret from hour one?
I don't know if I have it right, but the room recoiled, and then I started leaking confidence on what it is that I was doing. Do I have accurate how it is that the room responded to me, opening with the idea of mimicking Craig Carton by saying Craig Carton isn't a very good broadcaster, period, stop, because I felt like I lost all of you right there, that you thought it was mean, that I'd crossed the line, because I don't usually say anything like that very often. And it felt too harsh about somebody, and I felt like I lost you. But if indeed you felt that, my next thought was, if you felt it there, why don't you feel it when Craig Carton says it about Mike McDaniel? Because we've gotten so used to, you can criticize anything from these entertainers and sports figures, that we could be any kind of cruel to them. But why wouldn't you apply the same standard across the board to people who are talking about sports as well?
It was a good take. I mean, I don't know what to tell you.
He had graphics on the screen, though. That if you had graphics on the screen for the take that you had, maybe that would have been I would have been able to scan down. He had like Mike McDaniel 1 for 6 against X, Y, and Z teams.
Tony, what would the graphics have been for Dan's segment right there? Dan's take. Should we have years in prison?
Years in prison,
money
embezzled. Certain.
That would have been good. That would have been good to do
Felonies.
that graphically.
Carton stats.
To even be meaner than I already was being.
So you think we recoiled the way that Magnum PI recoils when the butler pulls off the cannon in the Magnum PI intro? I didn't get that sense that we were recoiling from that.
I didn't either, but Dan certainly sensed it from you guys. Dan sometimes, you know what you're like, Dan? You know how they got like dogs that can smell a stroke happening before you actually have it? You're like that with that room. You sense things. They don't even know it's happened yet, but it's already happening.
I don't know if I have it accurate or not, but I'm just being made happy because they are downloading here. Jason Benetti is with us, and if you do not know who Jason Benetti is, you should, because he is somebody that throughout baseball circles is being celebrated as about the best that is doing it these days, which is hard to top Boog Shambi, who I thought is the top of the profession.
Or Mad Dog.
Or Mad Dog, who Stugotz thinks should be the voice of baseball, but he's the celebrated play-by-play announcer for the Detroit Tigers. And I don't know if the Detroit Tigers have felt like this. You tell me. You correct me if I'm wrong. Thank you for joining us, Jason. Since Kirk Gibson was on their team and they started a season 35-5 in terms of Detroit baseball feeling as positive as it does right now, because everyone is surprised by what is happening in Detroit. And again, thank you for joining us, Jason.
I just texted Boog to say I'm coming for you. So we're ready for it. We're on the prowl. Everything's good. No, this is the best, I would say. I mean, this is my first year with the team, but reading up on their history, they went to the World Series in the early 2010s, and I think there was some liveliness around the team. But for a group of 20-somethings to be such underdogs and do what they've done, it's a little bit like watching an NCAA tournament upset over the course of a month. There are so many opportunities for interruption of mojo in a baseball season, and they lost a couple Tarek Skubal starts down the stretch, and they still bounce back. I mean, it is one of the great resiliency stories I've ever seen.
Can you explain to us whether this season or when this season was something that felt or started to feel special? Because I don't know that it felt this way 2 months ago.
If a month and a half ago you said, boy, this Tigers season is special, people would have gotten an MRI. That's how that would have felt. It's like people would have said, you are crazy for thinking that. They were 8 under 500 in August. It's well documented. I think there are a couple turning points. One, they went to Williamsport and beat the Yankees, and they were just kind of around all these kids. And there's an energy in that. The team has pointed to that as a possibility. A couple home run robberies by Parker Meadows in center field that kind of flipped games. He hit a grand slam with 2 out and 2 strikes in the 9th inning of a game against the Padres that looked like it was going to be a sweep. But you could list, I don't have my scorebook with me, but if I opened it, there's like 10 games that you could say that's the turning point. I mean, Javi Baez hit a home run off the Mariners closer, Andres Munoz, in the bottom of the 8th inning of a game at Comerica Park. It was the first run that Munoz gave up in like 2 months. It was August, late August, and the 4th of July was the last time he had given up a run. So there are just all these weird things that have happened. And the way I've felt is like, how people kind of turn to religion in moments like this in baseball. Whoever's watching above just has had the Tigers on the TV all the time. Like, all the buttons are getting pressed. There's no like, I missed that one. I was watching the Angels and the A's. Like, whoever's up there just has had the Tigers on for 2 months.
Do I have this number right? August 11th, the Tigers' playoff chance was 0.2%, not 2%, 0.2%?
No, that's correct. 0.2% was the Tigers' playoff chances. Like, it's basically the odds of you getting your wallet back if you lose it on the subway in New York.
Yeah, that's nuts. So you come from the White Sox. You were doing White Sox baseball. How have you experienced watching that from where you are? That the White Sox lost more games than any team this century.
Yeah, I only really watched when I had to, when they were playing the Tigers. This has been such an entertaining run with the Tigers. And part of it, they swept the White Sox in the Sox ballpark back in August, and that kind of catapulted the Tigers too. Everybody wants to make it weird, and it was weird at the beginning of the season. Thanks to Rob Manfred for opening the Tigers at the White Sox here. But I think the best thing that has come from my departure, other than this great season and the marvelous people that are around, is that AJ Hinch, Tiger manager, has fodder for every time we go to Chicago. He says to me, "Whoa, they're going to be like 5 more video tributes? How many more video tributes you got? Like, they're going to show you 6 times this time? AJ, get a hobby."
You're headed here into what is a really fun and chaotic time. What would you tell us about what is presently happening in Detroit around this baseball team?
I would say that anybody I run into who has any idea who I am is yelling, "Go Tigers," very loudly. And I think the other thing that comes from this Tigers run is the teams in the city, other than the Pistons at this point, they're rebuilding. But you think about what the Lions did last year, so close to the Super Bowl. The Red Wings were one pulled goalie away from making the playoffs in a late season surge. It is a sports town that's kind of cresting right now. And so what's happening around is, I think, and I don't want to put words in everybody's mouth, but I think Detroit and its resurgence has coincided with the sports. I think there's a lot of pride, a ton of civic pride. It is essentially, love the hat, love it, great,
go Gritty
fantastic, love it. So I just think this is what we want sports to be on some level, without being a documentarian. But I do think this team, everybody has a place. Like, Andy Ibanez doesn't play against right-handed pitchers, and he pinch hits against a lefty and Josh Hader and triples home 3 runs, and the Tigers win. It's everybody. It's every person. It's everybody in the town. It's what you want out of sports.
Jason, as a broadcaster, I'm sure you're familiar with, sometimes you got the support of people that you really don't want their support. And you don't know this, but I'm letting you know. I'm letting you know right now. Jeremy Taché, who just showed off his hat, you don't want his support.
What?
He's bad news. He's bad luck.
Oh, dude.
If you want the Tigers to continue to be successful, if you want this magical run to continue, you need to cut off any association with that character right there, because all he does is bring bad luck.
800 winning percentage since I hopped on the bandwagon, and that was just a few weeks ago. But ever since I did, it has been the joy of my life, Jason, to watch your calls during the stretch of the regular season as they went on to clinch the postseason, because this group is insane. To have 10 rookies on your 26-man roster, to have an entire payroll of your postseason, make less than the reliever you scored off of yesterday in Josh Hader, to be able to win that game. This is one of the coolest baseball stories I've ever seen, and it's really like, as much as I love the game, this has reinvigorated my passion for baseball in a way that has been really special.
Disavow him, Jason. Listen to me. Disavow him right now.
Look, the Heat win a lot when I'm on the sideline, okay?
I feel like we need to call Passon and get Elmo in here to like mediate this whole deal. I will ask Jeremy, like, when did you hop on? That literally might be the turning point of the season.
A follow-up?
It was a little late. It was right ahead of that Kansas City Royals sweep. So it was right ahead of the sweep against Kansas City with a couple weeks left to go. It was already starting. I'd seen some stats about how good the team had been since Javi Baez was out, and I was shocked by that. And then just downloaded myself on everything that I could about this team. And just think it's unbelievable the way that it's basically Tarek Skubal and quote-unquote a bunch of guys, and the way that all of them have come in and succeeded. You know, Jackson Jobe, this top prospect, comes in yesterday. When a rookie gets put in that spot and then doesn't succeed, normally everything falls apart. But nope, next man up, and the relievers get it done. Ibanez gets it done. This team is special, Jason.
I love this. Yeah, hop on whenever you want. Tigers bandwagon's open.
I'll see you in Detroit. I'll see you there.
Okay.
Maybe the company will send me. Or
you coming?
Okay, just stop.
Stop talking.
Stop.
5 minutes, Dan.
Your enthusiasm is too much for even him. You mentioned his calls, and his calls are exceptional. This is being called, the call against the Rays is being called the call of the year in baseball. Let's play this sound for Jason Benetti.
2-2. Tigers win again. A city that doesn't care about the odds has a baseball team to match.
I don't think it was the call of the year. It was a good call.
Who had better calls?
Did you know that you had nailed it, though, Jason? You knew you had nailed it. You laid out for the sound like the professional that you are.
Dan, what I really appreciate is that you granted the final call of the clincher call of year. You're saying that one's second place, and I just appreciate your understanding of the full catalog of my work, that you wouldn't put that one number one. It's very kind of you.
You are a special broadcaster. Everybody says this about you. You also have a relaxed way about you, and something that he does, Stugotz, is something that we enjoy very much, where if people offer him a word to say during the broadcast, he will find a way to use that word in the broadcast. Let's play this for the audience here of a bunch of Tigers players requesting words that they just want Benetti to throw into the broadcast wherever it is that he can find to throw them into the broadcast.
One word for Jason Benetti to use on the broadcast tonight.
Funky Town. You can get transported to Funky Town very quickly.
Yellowtail.
Like, you're not down there eating yellowtail and
Tango.
Well, Dan, it takes two to tango. So
Fortnite.
And here comes noted Fortnite player Colt Keith.
Birdie.
Little Birdie told me that you are a Fortnite player.
Pineapples.
You got pineapples for brains. What do you got?
Flabbergasted.
At what pitch were you officially flabbergasted?
Perpendicular.
His bat can be perpendicular to the ground.
Beauty.
You're at Comerica Park, and she is a beauty.
Moist.
Humid, moist atmosphere.
Can we make
There is an
a request of you here? Can we get you to use some phrases from us? Can we do that? Are we allowed to do that, or is that too self-involved?
No, that's fine. I would just request that you make it a little more difficult, that you have me do it in a different voice or something.
Oh, wow. Well, I was going to go with Magnum P.I.
In Higgins' voice.
In Higgins' voice. There you go.
Come on.
Can you do that?
Come on.
Well, no, he asked for it.
Can
Dan.
you? No, can't. Would you settle for the Sports Center voiceover guy or Sean McDonough?
Oh, you do some impersonations?
Well, let's hear him. Let's hear him first, okay? Let's hear the Sports Center guy.
Sports Center brought to you by Applebee's new Lucky Charms encrusted salmon.
Wow.
Oh my God!
Damn.
Are you him?
That's very good right there.
Now McDonough.
Delighted to have you with Jay Billis, Bill Raftery, the two XL egos here at the XL Center. I'm Sean McDonough.
I mean, if he's going to do that
Holy
for us,
crap.
he's making it even better. Yeah, that's pretty good. You don't have more of that in your arsenal, do you? That's staggering. I would love to hear the
How about-
Sports Center guy.
What about Droopy Dog? Do you remember Droopy Dog?
Yeah.
Yes,
the
let's hear
cartoon
it.
character?
Yeah, let's hear it. Yeah.
I'm sad. Hello, you happy people.
He's taking the
The
request.
Tigers are going to the World Series.
Magnum PI, is that a request? You're making a formal request of Jason Benetti?
Yeah, because Magnum PI was a big
I
Tigers
wish
fan.
I could. Big Tiger. They have a Magnum PI day at the ballpark at America Park. I did not know this until I took the job, but like thousands of people dress up as Magnum PI.
What an amazing day
What?
that must be. Look at Jessica. Look how happy.
What? Yes,
I gotta be there.
Are you
Oh
thinking
my
what I'm thinking? Road trip.
Jessica just became a Detroit Tigers fan. That's
So which voice do we want from Benetti here? Because I love the Sports Center voice.
I vote Sports Center
it's
as well.
so good. My God. Let's come up with some more words for him. He wants a degree of difficulty on this, a little harder than I thought. He might have some difficulty with moist. That one would be tricky, but no problem at all with moist.
I was fearful of moist as well. You have to kind of finesse that one because it's the most unacceptable word in the English language.
It's got some undertones. It's got some sensual undertones to it, but you just made it weather related and you copped out, really, is what you did.
I did. No, that was a ripcord. That was a total ripcord.
Any words from the shipping container that you would like? The man is sitting here and he is willing to give you the ability to do this. Do not let this opportunity pass without taking advantage of it.
Jason, can you mix in dímelo?
Oh, that's good in Spanish.
Wow.
Dímelo. If you've got a Hispanic player.
As Sean McDonough.
2-2, dímelo.
Oh my God.
I love you, man.
Jason, thank you for being on with us, sir. We do appreciate the time and appreciate the work.
Thank you. I want to be clear. I love Sean, by the way. Sometimes I do the impression people think I'm making fun of him. I think he's fantastic. I think he's wonderful. Droopy Dog, he's all right.
Thank you, Jason.
Thanks, guys.
You may be watching on YouTube, you may be watching on Peacock or Max, and you may have seen that we've got a Chicago watch party this weekend. It does not happen very often where God Bless Football and Stugotz and Billy make their way to your town, and we would like, because everywhere we tend to go, people who are really loyal to our show up to support. We are telling you right now, Chicago, that Stugotz and Billy are making a God Bless Football appearance on Sunday. It is a bit of a live stream watch party. I don't think, Stugotz, you guys have done this exactly, where you're on our YouTube channel, and during football on Sunday, you guys with Matt Forte are going to be doing a show, basically. It's kind of a live God Bless Football, right?
It is. You'll get me right after the Jets-Vikings Sam Darnold revenge game. I'll be in a bad mood. Tony's going to be out there with us as well, so we're excited. This is, Dan, to answer your question, the first time Billy and I have done something like this.
So, Dan, it's a watch-along live stream for the Bears and the Carolina Panthers, October 6th at noon Central Time, 1 p.m. Eastern, of course. Sunday at Joe's on Weed, 940 West Weed Street. Stu is also going to be on Weed, streaming live on the Le Batard Show YouTube channel, 21 and older. Enjoy Smirnoff responsibly. Everything brought to you by Smirnoff, by the way.
You could say this could only happen to a guy like him, and that could only happen in a town like that.
I would think, Jessica, that you should be there instead of Tony.
It's my kind
What's
of
that? What's that supposed to mean?
Chicago. I know. I had to respectfully decline because long story, personal stuff. However, they're gonna have a great time. I'm so excited for them. Chicago in the fall. What a time.
I chose Tony.
Fair enough.
Jessica, were you doing a reference?
It was Frank Sinatra.
Were you doing a reference, you think?
I thought she just broke into
I didn't
song.
know either. Yeah, I didn't get it.
Chicago, that title in town.
Did it hurt
being
you?
Jess.
Did it hurt you to have to turn this down? Because that is your favorite city, is it not?
Chicago, New York, love them both.
Pittsburgh.
Love them. Oh, Pittsburgh too. If you had one in Pittsburgh without me, that would be devastating. But you know what, Dan? It's okay. We all have to make sacrifices sometimes for our loved ones, our pets, and for the things that we hold dear to us. And so I'm going to spend my Notre Dame bye week sitting on the couch instead of in Chicago.
You're taking a bye
and that's
week,
my
huh?
sacrifice to the show.
Tony, did I hurt your feelings by
Absolutely
saying
not.
that? Okay.
Imagine. I thought you were leaking confidence earlier in the show, not listening to me and being like, oh, you know what? Tony actually has an idea and it sounds right. Oh.
You do owe him an apology.
At least the penalty box. At least.
Okay.
No, I don't think. Let's reverse it.
Because if I would have gotten it wrong, my ass would have been in the penalty box como un cohete.
Okay. You know what?
Thank you, Dan.
Self-imposed
We've got a penalty, 5 minutes. Major asshole.
Let's turn the tables for a second. Let's say we're all in Chicago doing a show, and we are all traveling to Miami for a watch along, and Dan would say, Tony, don't you think you should be there because you're from Miami? Yeah. I wouldn't be offended in that scenario. I also have, a piece of information for you about Higgins Cannon in Magnum PI.
You've been doing research.
I have been doing research.
Okay.
So I think, Higgins, correct me if I'm wrong, he was like a British guy. He was in the Army. He liked to, tinker, wear his Army uniform and stuff like that.
He's also Magnum PI's butler.
Correct.
Yes.
He was like the old stuffy butler
2 for
guy.
1?
Manservant?
Yeah,
Are we allowed to
Magnum
say that
PI,
word?
probably not. I don't know. Butler, I think
Manservant?
works. I don't
No?
know.
Okay.
And Magnum PI was like flashy, young, hotshot American.
Yes.
Mustache, as we all know. Anyways.
Ferrari, yeah.
Tiger's hat.
True. So I was trying to find the origins of Higgins Cannon, and I found on the magnummania.com website.
Oh, I love that website.
A little citation about Higgins Cannon, which says it was a genuine 1890s signal cannon built by the Strong Firearms Company of New Haven, Connecticut. The cannon was featured in a 2011 episode of Pawn Stars.
Oh.
It was valued between $20,000 and $40,000. After the cannon was fired, Rick Harrison of Pawn Stars made a final offer of $15,000. The seller wouldn't go lower than $35,000, so no deal was made. And basically sounds like this cannon is out there if we want to purchase it.
So we can buy it.
We just need $35,000.
I don't know if we need $35,000. That's 10 years ago. 15 years ago almost.
But
and
inflation now is probably worth more.
The price is probably higher,
No. Look, I watch Antique Roadshow, guys.
Oh, sorry.
I know that this is one of my favorite things to do when I watch Antique Roadshow is you see this thing and it's like because sometimes they'll do updates, right? Like this episode aired in 2013, and in 2013 it was valued at this, and then you say, what do you think it is now? 2024 price, and me and my dad will put in bets like, okay, I think it's going to be about this, and sometimes they go lower, and it's because other things get found of that kind of that era.
It becomes less precious.
It becomes less precious.
Even if you found another cannon from the 1890s, it's not the one that Higgins blew off in Magnum PI. So this one has a very unique, what's the word I'm looking for? History, yes. Provenance, I guess, would be the word.
Also, he's been shopping it for $35K for 15 years. Maybe he's got no buyers.
But also, Rick from Pawn Stars, notorious lowballer.
15 is really...
Like, what are you doing?
That's disrespectful.
Always lowballs.
Really?
Guy can never put a solid offer out there. It's always like, oh, you've got this one-of-a-kind thing that's worth so much money. I'll give you $10K for it. And you're like, no.
Well, the Pawn Stars have to make money too, Tony.
Sure, I get how
They
the
gotta
business
flip
works.
this
I
Sounds
get
like
that.
every fantasy owner I've ever tried to trade with. Oh, let me get your best running back for, guys 7, 8, 9 on my roster. No.
It's a hell of a deal.
But I'm giving you 3 of them. 3 crappy guys for your best guy.
We saw the Pawn Stars building. Me, Chris, and Lewis.
Really?
Yeah, in Vegas when we were at the show. We were kind of cruising around Vegas doing our thing. And
we were looking
like,
for a dispensary.
We had also grand plans to do something content-wise with the Pawn Stars, and then it just turned to let's find a dispensary.
That's wow.
Planet 13.
If that's not the story of Metal Arc Media.
Lewis and I were looking for the dispensary.
This big project, this idea, like we're in Vegas, we're on location. Let's get with these people. They're celebrities. They have a very successful show. We're gonna create this whole piece of content, this bit, and then it devolves into just, let's get high.
It was across the street.
We don't have
which
time
is
for
why
a whole
we were
bit.
in the parking lot. We saw it. We're
Let's
like,
get
whoa,
some
isn't
weed.
that it? And they were like, yeah. And they were like, okay.
Speaking of weed, Joe's on weed.
Joe's on weed.
This
God bless
Sunday.
football.
Full
Sunday Night
circle.
Live crossover.
Yes.
With Matt Forte.
I'm just
Presented by
sad.
Smirnoff.
How'd you guys get Matt Forte?
Yeah, that kind of
Smirnoff.
thing.
Yeah.
Smirnoff got him.
That's a great question. Great guess.
By the way, the
You guys are gonna
cannon,
have
you're
a
right.
blast.
It is $35,000 still.
See?
And the Ferrari from Magnum PI, the one that he drove during the show, is $181,000 right now.
Oof.
Yeah.
So now you buy a new one.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? That thing probably drives like shit.
For sure.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter what you're tapping into. Did someone love Magnum PI so much growing up and they have a lot of money? Are they willing to pay anything to get that Ferrari?
Stugotz, you know what's funny? Like $180,000 for that Ferrari, I'm like, absolutely not. But if you told me $180,000 for the DeLorean from Back to the Future,
yeah,
I am absolutely. It's one of
What is money at that point?
I'm telling you, my entire adult life has been to become wealthy enough to buy a DeLorean and then have it retrofitted to look like the Back to the Future DeLorean. It's everything I do.
Do you know?
Every time you guys say, Amin, you work, my dad says, you're speaking to too many microphones. Oh, you're working too much, you're flying too much. Like, it's all because I'm building up to that fucking DeLorean.
Amin as Doc Brown.
Marty!
You know DeLorean is coming out with a new DeLorean.
No way.
That looks like the old DeLorean.
Wait,
Look
no.
it up. It's electric.
Hold on.
Boogie
An
woogie woogie.
electric DeLorean.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Did the door still go up?
Everything is the same on the DeLorean. It's just retro, to new.
Because I thought about, I don't want to drive an old-ass DeLorean, right? So, can you replace stuff on the under the hood so that people won't know? And, Tony, from what the sound of you're saying is that's exactly what happens. You get an electric DeLorean, I mean, that's pretty much what Doc Brown did. He went to the future, and he stopped it from being a gas car. He stopped it from being a plutonium-driven flux capacitor.
Hey, you could do it with anything.
It still runs on gas, my bad. But point still remains. That would be incredible.
Did you see the DeLorean documentary on Max? Did you like it?
I loved it.
Very good. Stugotz, you'd appreciate it.
A documentary?
A scammer.
He's a scammer.
Oh, yeah, I'm there.
A documentary about a scammer who made the DeLorean and still rings you. The name still means something to you, even though he just sort of he invented a bogus business.
He was
around
a
his
visionary,
scammering.
Dan.
Lehman Iacocca?
I did not expect a Lee Iacocca joke coming from
Lehman
you.
Iacocca.
Yeah, no, I got it. Thank you, Stugotz.
Just making sure you got it. That's all.
Delightfully
I appreciate it.
Came out of nowhere. I understand.
If we're going to do that time, the time of the DeLorean, the person I would like to talk about from about that time period, since Amin has now become our expert on All in the Family and the Jeffersons and Magnum PI. I did want to stop for a second to talk about the death of John Amos. John Amos is the father in Good Times. I don't know if any of you know that name.
So I believe for most people, his most recognizable role would be Cleo McDowell from Coming to America.
100%.
You think so?
Absolutely.
No doubt, Dan.
Over the father in Good Time. All right, put it on the poll, please. John Amos's most famous role. Choose between those two, because I associate him simply as the father from Good Times.
Well, there's
because he's also in one of the Die Hard movies.
Yes, he is. Die Hard 2. So I guess these are his biggest roles, right? Father from Good Times, Coming to America, Kunta Kinte in Roots, right? These are like the seminal, that's the holy trinity of John Amos roles. Obviously, he's in a lot of other things. But Good Times, he wasn't on that show that long then. Because if you remember, James Evans dies, right? And then Florida Evans has to raise the family by herself. Now, the reason behind that speaks to a lot about who John Amos is as a person and as an actor. He was, first of all, he's former professional football player. I don't know if you guys know that. Like
I did not.
Like Carl Weathers, like a lot of other, like Jim Brown. He played football. When he first broke in, he was a comedy writer. He wrote on the Leslie Uggam show, right? And so the producers were like, this dude has good timing. Let's put him on camera. And that's how he became an actor. Now, here's where it gets really crazy. So John Amos, this is in the 70s, is an actor. He's turning down roles. Why? Because he's like, I don't want to play stereotypical black roles. I don't want to be a pimp. I don't want to be a drug dealer or a junkie or whatever. I want to be, why can't I just be, a regular thing? So he is on Maude, which is another Norman Lear show. He's married to Florida Evans. Florida Evans is a smaller bit part on that show. They decided to make a spinoff, which is Good Times. And obviously it's the story of a black family living in allegedly Cabrini Green, one of the toughest projects in the nation. And his whole thing is like, this is my opportunity to play a nuclear black family that's not broken up, that's not split up, that's like shows it's loving and whatever.
It was important to him to represent
Yes.
black people in a way that wasn't caricature or stereotype at a time that he was a pioneering black actor, because there weren't that many. There weren't, never mind black shows. Good Times is one of the first. I don't even, what would be the first black show?
Leslie Uggams having a show is also, I mean, there's a couple, but you're right. There aren't, forget about black shows. There aren't a lot of black roles, right? Imagine in a time when there aren't that many roles and you're sitting here and saying, I'm not doing that one, right? There's, if you guys, now we're really going to get old. Hollywood Shuffle was this Robert Townsend movie that came out in the 80s about the struggle of black actors keeping their dignity while still getting work. And there's this big scene where they're auditioning for a scene for a pimp. And the guy in the waiting room tells Robert Townsend, this is bullshit. I can't believe they're making us do this. You're better than that. You're stronger than that. You don't have to demean yourself. And he's giving him his pep talk. And Robert Townsend's like, yeah, well, I don't know why I'm doing this role. And then the lady says, Michael Smith. And he's like, that's me. And the guy runs up, the guy who's trying to talk him out of it. So John Amos was doing this shit for real, turning down these roles for real. And Good Times is supposed to be this family and their struggles, but they're trying to make it. And then Jimmy Walker, who plays J.J. Evans, becomes a star because he's got the catchphrase. He's the comic relief in this kind of sometimes heavy show. And the writers, who are all white, are like, well, let's lean a little bit more towards Dynamite over here with his catchphrase and his silly clothes and all that stuff.
So Amos is stuck in the position where his show is doing a little bit of caricature, and he's getting into the shadows on somebody who's usurping him by white writers writing a role that is cartoonish for Kid Dynamite.
Exactly. And the bigger thing is, he's like, well, the Evans family has 3 kids, and one of them wants to be a doctor, and the other one wants to be a lawyer, and even JJ wants to be an artist. Like, that's a central thing about like how he cares about his art, but it's all devolving into just get rich quick schemes and again all these stereotypical like lazy black teenager stuff. So John Amos fights with Norman Lear. He gets fired. They write him out of the show saying James died, and that's why he was only on for like 2 seasons.
I didn't know that. And one of the most famous scenes in there is Florida Evans yelling, damn, when he dies. I don't know if you know this, and I don't know the details. Maybe the shipping container can find some of this. Evidently, John Amos died before James Earl Jones.
Died in August.
Yeah, died in August.
He died in August.
We didn't find out until 2 days ago.
Until it was just put out, and we don't know why. That hasn't come out. We don't know why. We don't know why the purpose of that being withheld. Maybe it was just the family being secretive or private. Maybe there's something else going on.
You like talking about the old TV shows. One of the things that has stunned me around here is that Jessica is not just a fan of Columbo. I'm learning now, all of a sudden, that she wants to head to Detroit because, unbelievably, they have a Magnum PI night where everyone's going to have a ridiculous mustache that only Tom Selleck can pull off. Nobody else can pull off that particular mustache.
Burt Reynolds?
I mean, that's a ridiculous thing to say, Dan, especially while mustaches are so in style. I mean, have you seen Paul Skeens, for example?
I have, but that mustache is pathetic compared to the Magnum PI mustache.
What about
pathetic?
Tony?
I'm just saying there's probably thousands of men listening to this podcast right now with a mustache who you just personally insulted.
Well, it's not an insult to say you can't rock the Magnum PI mustache the way Magnum PI did. There's no insult in that.
Well, you haven't seen it, so how do you know? How do you
Because
know?
no one can do it.
Wait a second. Carl Weathers. Stugotz, back me up here. Carl Weathers mustache.
He could do it.
That's a
It's a
great
good
He did
mustache.
it. He did.
That's
And
a
Dan,
great mustache.
to your point, Magnum PI, legendary show. They once did a crossover episode with Murder, She Wrote, one of my favorite shows. Jessica Fletcher, my namesake, Angela Lansbury, bless her. God rest her soul. You guys just ignored her death a couple years ago. Didn't say anything about her. Ignored Maggie Smith's death. The beautiful and wonderful Maggie Smith, one of the best actresses of our lifetime.
Dame Maggie Smith to you.
Love
I miss her. Yeah.
Violet, the Dowager Countess. I love Maggie Smith, Professor McGonagall, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And you guys just gloss over that. Murder, She Wrote is one of the greatest shows of our life. Cabot Cove, I'd like to go there. That's a spooky place. That is a spook. Why do people keep dying in Cabot Cove? I would like to know.
Stugotz, as we talk about CBS programming, I was delighted because we've been making fun of this for years. Do you realize that because they do things like Murder, She Wrote, because CBS is all about Angela Lansbury, no matter how much we blaspheme against her and Jessica by not talking enough about Angela Lansbury, are you aware, Stugotz, that CBS is presently in production with Kathy Bates in a remake of
Matlock.
What?
There's a Matlock remake, but
Kathy Bates?
Her name's Matlock, but she's not related to Matlock.
I wanted it to be like Matlock's niece or cousin or something like that.
No, they make a point of like, no, not like that Matlock, but yes, it's Matlock. But there, Dan, I haven't seen it, but I know there is a huge twist. There is a huge twist. There's something fishy going on with the Matlock reboot and Kathy Bates' character. I'm not going to spoil it for people.
You know what the twist is.
I know what the twist is. It's a good twist. There's good stuff going on in the Matlock. I haven't seen it.
Damn,
but it's on my list for when the stupid Mets lose.
Dan, by the way, Eddie Murphy, another great mustache, which brings us back to John Amos and Coming to America. Yep. John Amos, as I said, played Cleo McDowell, who run McDowell's, which had
entrepreneur, by the way, family man, entrepreneur.
Also had nothing to do with McDonald's, right?
Nothing.
Completely different.
How are you pronouncing that word, Tony?
Entrepreneur.
Okay, it just sounded like you cut off the N and just started it with a T. Trepreneur is what it
family
sounded.
entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Obviously,
Silent N, Dano.
They've got the golden arches. We've got the golden arcs. Okay, they've got the Big Mac. We've got the Big Mick.
Now, see, they both have two all beef patties, special sauce and lettuce cheese.
But what's the difference?
They have the sesame seed buns.
We
Ours
don't.
have no seeds.
Exactly.
Look, I don't think we can correct Tony for at least the rest of the week. Yeah. He got the writing on the wall thing close enough to accurate, and like
close
sort
enough.
of pulled it out of his ass. And like I think we should. Honestly, I'm gonna give him a standing ovation.
You know what? I'll do better than that. I'll give him a standing ovation, and I will give him a featured segment right now. I want to do a Tony tonight where he gets the whole. Where he gets the whole floor for himself because I feel so ashamed for underestimating Tony. Here's a segment dedicated just to how right Tony is. Tony Tonight.
This is Cuban rocket cake. Notice it comes in a small cup. Usually get coffee, it's huge, right? You order the venti wherever your favorite coffee place is. All you need for Cuban rocket fuel is this right here. All you take is one shot.
very important question every Miamian needs to know. Okay. Best croquetas. There's only one answer.
Y La Canaria.
Croqueta County. We went there a couple days ago. Perfect. Best croqueta on the planet.
Yeah, I agree.
This is incredible.
Bro, you look like Travis Kelce.
Come on now.
You look like Travis Kelce.
I get Travis Kelce.
Waiting for Taylor Swift to pop out of the bushes.
I don't know where she is. She has to come through. My brother, thank you so much for hanging out, dude. Thank you. Okay, estamos aquí on 137th and Coral Way, which is, if you know, you know, this is the heart of Miami right here. I'm going to say that a lot during this trip throughout Miami, but this is the heart of Miami right here in West Kendall. We're at a place called La Canaria. 30 years in the making, generations handed down of some of the best Cuban food. On top of that, the best croqueta on the planet. I don't care what you say about Betsaye. My grandfather goes there every day, by the way. Shout out to him. But we're going to go to the Ventanita. Ventanita culture in Miami is super important. It's the original drive-thru, but use your legs when you get out of the car. It's the original place where you would come and talk to guys like this guy right here. I don't know his story. Why is he on the back brace? I don't know. We're going to go find out. Let's go. One. Okay, normally in una ventana, you would walk up and order. One of these beautiful ladies will be helping you out. You tell her, oye, dame una colada, dame una croquetica. But here, when you're family, they come and already have it set up for you. Right here, you're looking at pastelito de guayaba, which are incredible. Empanadas, which is basically like fried dough with meat inside. You can get chicken, you can get pork, you can get whatever you want. And then this is it right here. Please take a look. La croquetica. This is the best croquetas on the planet right here. Take a look at this. So, Carlito, coge aquí. So, una croqueta is basically a nice fried, breaded and fried, just grounded up ham in there. Please look at this. It's the best on the planet right here. 137 y Coral Way. Hold on. I have to show you the real stuff. Okay, right here. This is Cuban rocket fuel. Notice it comes in a small cup. Usually get coffee, it's huge, right? You order the venting wherever your favorite coffee place is. All you need for Cuban rocket fuel is this right here. Somebody help me. Here we go. Okay. You get a little cup like this. This is very important. You have to be able to squeeze the cup, right? So you can get the stuff out. Look at that espumita. Espumita is the sugar foam on top. Incredible. So you go like this, and all you take, Lil Dusty, all you take is one shot. That right there, this is Cuban breakfast in the mornings. This is why this is so important. You walk in on a Saturday, this place is stacked. Look at this guy, ready to eat. He's excited, I'm excited. I'm gonna take all this stuff home. You guys have to get your own part. All right, we're here with Ventanita Royalty, La Dueña, the owner of La Canarias, Nancy. Nancy, we're gonna do this in Spanglish. Is that okay?
Awesome.
And we're gonna keep it real for the people in Miami, but also for los gringos, we're gonna make sure that we subtitle it. Nancy, las croquetas aquí son lo mejor del mundo. ¿Por qué?
Porque están hechas con un amor, están hechas con amor y están hechas con la receta de mi padre, de hace 60 años. Hemos ido cambiando, haciendo algunos ajustes para el sabor específico de Miami, pero tienen la receta y el amor de la familia Andrade García.
Cuando haces cosas con amor, saben más mejor que nada. El amor es el ingredient más potente de todo.
Así es.
¿Y por qué la ventanita aquí? ¿Por qué? En la 137 y Coral Way.
Este es el centro de Kendall, este es el centro, el corazón de nuestra área de West Miami. Aquí tenemos clientes de hace 35 años, que fue cuando abrimos acá, pero Islas Canarias en realidad tiene 45 años de originalmente.
Como en las 47 y las 147, ahí donde está Lexo de Meros, me creía ahí mismo. So, para mí, aquí, en un sábado, a coger croquetica, pastelito, tostada, eso fue part of my upbringing, ¿tú sabes? Y cuando oyes esa historia de la gente de la comunidad, ¿cómo te sientes?
Me siento muy humble, Nosotros estamos ahora sirviendo la tercera generación de nuestros clientes originales. Wow. Cuando comenzamos en 1977, esos clientes no eran clientes, eran familia. Y tuvieron sus hijos y ahora esos hijos tienen sus hijos. Son los nietos de nuestros clientes originales, son nuestros clientes ahora. Y eso nos da mucha alegría, nos da mucho orgullo y nos place atenderlos y es un cariño y una relación muy estrecha que tenemos con la comunidad.
Me ves que estoy haciendo pesa, que quiero comer rico, pero no puedo parar a comer esto.
No, pero esta es la proteína, la barra de proteína de Miami.
Mira para eso.
Eso no la puedes dejar de comer. Te puedes comer todas las que quieras, tienes más fuerza.
Comida cubana, ven para acá, para Islas Canarias.
Vengan todos.
Mi gente, thank you for watching Tony Tonight.
A real star turn for Tony here. Earned confidence. He walks around with what has looked like in the past a little bit, a little bit of unearned confidence. But today, a real star turn, Tony. Congratulations. You're
Thank
having
you,
a
Dan.
hell of a day.
The star was La Croqueta de la Canaria. Those are the stars. It's easy to be the co-star when the star of the show is Los Pastelitos, El Cafecito, La Croquetica.
Is Jessica familiar with all of this? Has she tasted?
I don't think she's gone that far down. I don't think she's gone down to 137th and Coral Way, the hood. Okay, like Alex Rodriguez likes to say.
Sorry, Stugotz's headset is so loud that I can hear it echoing in my own
he cannot
headset.
hear anymore. He has distorted all parts of his face, voice. Yes, I don't know why you
It's
put
just
on
so
Stugotz's headset. Anytime anyone puts on Stugotz's headset, it is way too loud. But Jessica, I'm surprised yesterday. Many people enjoyed how you put the Miami show in its place by explaining to them that Halloween treats at a tailgate is something that Miami was underestimating.
Really?
Its greatness. Yes, Jessica was getting a lot of applause for that yesterday, but I do believe you would like Miami slightly more if you had just one of these croquetas, just one.
All right, I'll give it a shot.
Have you had croquetas in general?
Yeah, we had the guy that came and made them for us.
From La Canaria.
Is it possible to put something like perhaps a piece of candy corn on the end to make it look like a spooky finger? Because then or perhaps two olives to make spooky little eyes.
Olives, no, that's empanadas. You put that in the beef. That's a different story.
I'm just spitballing here. Could we wrap it in prosciutto and put it in the shape of a severed hand?
You are doing too much with the croqueta. The croqueta by itself is a magical thing that doesn't need any extra anything. It doesn't need any.
Just the way God intended, Dano. Just a tube of meat
Before
fried.
he started writing on that wall,
He was like, you know what?
Babylonia,
Croquetas.
That was the writing on the wall.
We have Gen CFB later in the show with you and Lucy. What do we have to look forward to there? Because we have not talked very much college football this week. You had to be really hoping, because we have not talked to you about this either, that Virginia Tech touchdown would have stood and that Miami would have been robbed by a bad call at the end of the game, and that Mike Ryan would have been horrified and would have been still
Bad call. That was the greatest call of all time. The ball was moving. I could see from Kendall the ball was moving 800 times. The guy was out of bounds and touchdowns. Like,
I would have
what are we doing?
assumed that Jessica would have been rooting for that to end in a Miami loss on a bad call. Like that we would have all known it was a bad call, and still Miami would have lost because of it. No, that's not how you felt.
Dan, today on Gen CFB, we had a jam-packed episode. We handed out September awards. And we handed out an award to a group of people. It's called the Our Expectations Were Low But Holy Shit Award. Oh, wow. And that group included ACC refs because they were on a heater this weekend. They had some rough moments. Let's say this. They did not cover themselves in glory. And neither did the Big Ten refs. There was a big debacle at the end of the Michigan-Minnesota game. So we covered all of that in Gen CFB. We also handed out our September Heisman Trophy. We handed out the award for the best game, which, spoiler alert, it was the Alabama-Georgia game this past Saturday. That game ruled. And yeah, we had a really good time on this week's episode. I think people will really enjoy it.
I am curious. That's at the end of the show today in the post game. I am curious, if you are in agreement with me on this, because we've talked a lot about officiating. I expect in the coming weeks for enormous consequences to result from bad officiating, where people get really mad because important stakes and games are being decided because of the following. Mm-hmm. In pro sports, everything is moving so fast with the professional athletes that what is alleged to be the very best of officiating can't keep up, and we've got so much technology with the games that we're all watching every little bit of minutia, and some of these games are being decided by very little. So baseball, basketball, football at the top of sports has more complaining about the officiating that I can remember, even though historically we've always complained about the officiating, but haven't had this kind of technology to see how often the people are wrong. If you keep going down in sports, making the officiating a little bit worse because the best are at the top of professional sports where the money is. If college football is getting so giant that it feels like professional football on Saturdays. It feels like you're getting in Alabama, Georgia, something that people are watching and caring about the same way they care about the most professional of football. Does it not stand to reason that we're headed to a place where the officiating cannot keep up in college sports with the stakes and the interest and the technology, that this is going to keep getting worse and worse, and that the officials aren't going to be able – these are all people with second jobs, I mean. These are people who are doing this in their spare time.
Ed Hockley is a lawyer.
And if it can't be done perfectly at the professional level, how is it going to be done perfectly or better at the semi-professional level?
This is what I would say. I would say, I maybe I'm wrong. You guys can correct me on this. I don't feel like college football is bigger now because of whatever reasons, NIL or realignment or anything. I think it's as big a business as it's always
I just mean the interest. The interest keeps growing.
But I think the bigger thing is not the growth in the interest. The bigger thing driving all this is technology. It's that it used to be, oh, he touched, like, the ball moved, oh, the ball didn't move or whatever. But now we have 8 zillion 8K cameras or what is it, 3,000K cameras that can pick up with great clarity something that the human eye cannot pick up, let alone pick up in real time. And so we're all sitting at home saying, well, oh, clearly it moved, but we expect them to get it right. It's the reason why I think replay sucks, right? Like, I think it robs some of this stuff. I mean, some of the stuff, obviously, someone steps out of bounds, right? But when we're talking about the athletes are so good that it is the prestige they're pulling off, that's part of the game, man. The part of the game is getting away with shit.
I'm kind of with you. Like, it's got to be an incredibly difficult job. I don't think anyone disputes that. But, like, you're sort of blending in the human error element in football where you are spotting the ball usually just with the naked eye with the replay element. And it just must be impossible to do that and to be using the chains in 2024 when you can watch a replay. And then, like, the aspect of it that gets so frustrating is how much it slows the game down to constantly be replaying. And these games are already long. Like, the game that I went to this weekend, the Notre Dame-Louisville game, oh my God, it was so long. And thank God I filled up during my tailgate because I was sustained on dips throughout all 4 hours of that thing. But there were so many replays, a lot of injury timeouts too, and it just dragged on to 4 hours by the time it was over. And that's why I think people get so frustrated with the referees. It's not just because the calls are inconsistent, it's because sometimes, like in the Miami-Virginia Tech game, you wait 7 minutes to find out if it's a touchdown.
Remember, they had to go back to wherever they were, Secaucus, or I don't know if it was Secaucus, Charlotte, or wherever the ACC is. But the point is, when you talk about, Dan, like the top of the reffing profession, a lot of these calls these guys are getting right. With the bang-bang plays, with looking at it, with spotting. Like that, they're doing an incredible job on the field in real time. They just need that extra help for stuff that the ball moves when there's 8 guys trying to catch a Hail Mary, or was his foot out of bounds at the exact specific time that it needed to be or not?
So what Tony's saying is absolutely right. The NBA goes through this all the time. They're grading their refs on their accuracy, and they, by and large, are very accurate. It's the ones that they miss that people go nuts on, and that's another part of it. We're hyper-focused on when did you let me down versus all the times you got it right. And then gambling, obviously there are more stakes. It used to be, my team lost. Now it's like, you lost me money. There are all these other added forces. But Dan, I would argue this, maybe not for the gamblers, but for everybody else. If we had fully automated officiating, I submit to you, it would be more boring. We would not enjoy what we're watching as much as we do, knowing that there is a way to kind of subvert a human being into thinking, oh, no, I didn't touch it.
I like having someone to blame.
Yeah. Put it on the poll. Put it on the poll, Juju, at Le Batard Show. Do you like having someone to blame?
Other than yourself.
Dana White was saying here recently that, and this is subjective sports, judging that is more subjective than what it is that we're talking about. He's saying that he's looking forward to the day where he can do all of the officiating in mixed martial arts with AI. Not having judges, replacing judges with technology that can replace judges. But when we talk about this particular stuff on the technology, you do realize that on Monday night, in that Dolphin-Titan game, I saw something I've never seen before, which is on a punt, that we couldn't tell even on replay who touched it first. Was it Tennessee or was it the Dolphins? It's a fumble, and in that game, they were just trading field goals. At that point, it seemed like that was a disastrous mistake that was going to change the result of the game. And I still don't actually know, having seen 10 replays in slow motion, who touched the ball first. I know the ruling they made, but I still don't know with all of the technology, and we will blame them for getting it wrong in real time and then getting it wrong on replay, even though I'm watching something I've never seen before.
That one did also take a really long time, but I mean, in retrospect, we were so naive. We were so naive thinking that was a pivotal moment in the game. We were so naive to think that any of that mattered.
That's true.
So I'm going to ask my refs here, because obviously you guys are all professional referees. So if the team that's receiving the ball touches it first while they're on defense, does that mean the ball is dead? Right? So Calais Campbell got his hand and actually partially blocked that ball while he was on defense. So it didn't touch it when he was on offense. So does that mean that the Dolphins can pick up the ball and then fumble it and then not be a fumble?
No, because they had ruled that Tennessee got that ball, and it wasn't because another Dolphin had touched it. I understand what it is that you're saying. Calais Campbell tipped the punt, and it was partially blocked. And you're asking whether or not the Dolphins can then just take the ball and
without
run it
impunity.
They would be as soon as they touch the ball, they can then fumble it.
The way that the Dolphins would be able to advance without impunity is if the Titans touch it first, I think.
Is it with impunity or without impunity? Because I'm confused about that. I'm doubly confused.
You're the one who said
Jeremy,
it. I'm just trying to sound smart.
Here. No, Jeremy, you came in here and you made it more confusing.
Everybody else is Googling. I'm just trying to help.
You were but you didn't help.
Yeah.
You made it worse.
Made it worse. Okay.
Impunity is bad.
Sounds like what I do here.
Impunity is bad. Impunity is good.
You did it without impunity. You
But
need to
without
do it with
impunity.
impunity.
Without impunity is a double negative. Impunity is bad. Impunity is good. Without impunity means we're taking away the thing that's good. It's bad then.
So it's just punity.
I don't think there's such a thing as punity.
Without punity, there should be. With impunity.
What does the writing on the wall say?
It was hard. That's why they had to bring in Daniel. Remember Daniel from the Lions Den? They had to bring him in so he could read what it was that God wrote on the wall. And it was bad for Belshazzar, by the way.
Daniel, what did the writing on the wall say?
I'm overwhelmed. Is there such a thing as whelmed?